What does Secretary Bessent, what does President Trump want this relationship to look like going forward, the relationship between the U.S. and China? Have they been explicit about that?
I think they have been explicit about it in a couple of ways. One thing is that they've talked about this idea of certain goods being critical. Bessent has talked a lot about critical minerals. He's talked about these ingredients that go into weapon systems and things like that as being something that the U.S. needs to have access to no matter what happens in terms of global trade. And right now, China does most of the world's production around those types of elements and those types of minerals. And so the U.S. definitely wants to see a lot of that production and processing and those sorts of things moved out of China, potentially to the U.S., but maybe to some friendlier countries. And that's been a long-standing issue for not just the Trump administration, but also the Biden folks as well. There's also questions around semiconductors, steel industry. I think Bessent said earlier today that they're going to protect the U.S. steel industry. There's a lot of these sort of national security focused supply chain things that they really want to focus on and that are sort of existing somewhere outside of this idea of consumer goods. Now, it's interesting to hear them talk about those things in those terms because, again, this has been a longstanding issue for successive U.S. administrations going back to the first Trump administration. So it's not something that's totally new. What we see more of is this idea of rebalancing consumption and production, and that's really something that's unique to Bessent and Trump.
I'm David Gura, and this is The Big Take from Bloomberg News. Today on the show, surprisingly fruitful negotiations over the weekend lowered tariffs with China and buoyed markets, but a lot of uncertainty remains. I sat down with Bloomberg Treasury reporter Dan Flatley to discuss the negotiations and what could lie ahead.